Hi guys, and welcome to Trucking Along with Kiersey. That's me, your positive voice in trucking. I know there's a few of you out there who are about to take the CDL exam, and a couple of you just failed. So I want to say, nobody cares, so what? I'm not trying to be mean. What I'm saying is, in a few years, it won't matter. Just do what you got to do to get past that test. Calm down. Nobody's going to remember that you failed. And I'm going to tell you my story next, because believe it or not, I failed. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. So that story when we come back. Okay, so you're really nervous about taking the exam, or you've just failed and you're really not happy and you feel like the end of the world is like coming down upon you. And then you get told, oh, it's do or die tomorrow, depending on how many times you've already taken the exam. Each state has different rules on how often you can exam and how many times you're allowed to fail. In Missouri, it was 3 pre-trips, 3 backing, and 3 of the behind the wheel. And where I went at my company and in the state of Missouri, we were allowed to test the next day. So if you failed one day, you could go right on to the next day after practicing some more and take your shot. Well, I learned, before I even went to my company sponsored program, I learned my pre-trip through Apex Driving School's YouTube video. I'm gonna link that down below, so make sure you take a look at that. The only problem is that when you look at these pre-trip videos that are a couple years old, the wording sometimes changes over time. So learn it for the parts and the general wording, but then realize that when you go to the school or you go to the company sponsored program, you may need to tweak those, but at least by then you'll already know what the parts are. It doesn't matter if you're driving a Mack or a Mercedes or a Freightliner or whatever, a brake chamber is a brake chamber. You know, an alternator is an alternator. You'll be able to identify these. Airbags are airbags. You'll be able to identify these, and just by watching that video, I promise. And when you go, like, I was way ahead of everybody that was in my class because I already knew the pre-trip. That puts you way ahead. The problem was I couldn't understand the backing. My company teaches certain reference points, and my CDL instructor had his own way of teaching. He had 7 prior students, and 3 of them passed everything on the first day, which is great. Joyous for them. The problem was it didn't work for me, and I really needed these reference points. So guess what happened? I went out and I passed the pre-trip with flying colors. I was so happy. Then when we got to the backing, I wound up getting nervous and couldn't get in the spot the right way, and I pulled up and backed up and pulled up and backed up and pulled up and backed up, and by the time I actually got in the spot, I pointed out with 13 points. You get, I think it was, now remember this was a few years ago, so I think it was 13 points and then you failed. So I'm going to do another video that talks about the CDL test and the points and that kind of thing, but this, I wanted to inspire you that it's not the end of the world if you fail. So I failed. And then that particular trainer, he was leaving Prime because he had a family situation, medical situation with his wife. So he left and they gave me a different instructor. That instructor taught me these reference points that clicked in my head. So I go out onto the testing pad, I back into the space, and everything's wonderful. I got 0 points. 0 points, which is like perfect score. Woohoo! The only problem was I wasn't used to driving his stick shift. And you gotta understand, I never drove a manual before I came to Prime. I never drove like a boat trailer or a camper or anything, nothing with a hitch. And there were like 76 people in my class and we were all on the sims, and they're all like shifting and I'm like, oh crap, I have no coordination. My mother was like making fun of me. I said this on another video. She's like, how do you think you're gonna shift with one foot and shift, you know, clutch with one foot and shift with another? You have no coordination. And it's true. But I was really good at driving the other truck. When you're experienced, you don't realize how different the trucks can be. When you're brand new, you do. And I went from one truck where the gears were kind of wide to another truck where they were really narrow. So when I thought I was in second gear, I was actually in fourth. And it got to the point where I went out on the first test. I got to the very first intersection. These loops are 11 miles of the test track. I got to the first intersection, stalled the truck, boom, automatic fail at the first intersection. But they still make you do the entire test. So the whole time I'm like, man, I already failed. This sucks. So I get back to the training, the testing location, and I was disappointed, but I was like, well, I'll just, you know, it's just this truck. I need a little bit more practice and I'll be better tomorrow. So the trainer did. He took me back out with his truck and we drove around and he's like, I don't understand how you could have failed because you're such a good driver. And I'm like, yeah, I was kind of nervous, but maybe that's what it was. So the second day I go out with the examiner and he, you know, he was so impressed of me driving that he threw his clipboard up on the dash, went like this, folded, and he's just like, this is the easiest test I've had in months. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. And so we get to the very last intersection, about to turn back in to the testing pad, and boom, stalled the truck. Automatic fail, impeding traffic. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I get back to, you know, we get back to the pad and now I'm crying because now I've failed the driving test for the second time. Okay, one more and that's it, I'm done. So I am crying on this examiner's shoulder like, oh, I can't go back to Jersey, please don't make me go, what can I do? And he said to me, he said, look, I'm telling you, you're one of the best drivers I've seen. Even if I was gonna nitpick, I probably could have given you maybe 6 points. He's like, but they do this scale, I think it's 34 points or 32 points, and you wind up failing. So he was like, you shift it so great, even the maximum points you can get in shifting and like grinding gears would be 5 points as long as you keep recovering. And he's like, you didn't even do that. He says that's what most people get their points on. The average for somebody scoring, he told me at the time, was about like 14 to 18 was average. And he's like, you probably could have gotten 6 to 8 somewhere in there. So you're a lot better than you realize. And I know you're gonna be a great driver. And you're gonna be a great driver for Prime. He says, so this is what you do. If you do fail, you can't test in Missouri again for a year. He said, go find a local, you know, an adjoining state like Arkansas or something. Try to find a way that you can do residency, or go back to your home state, pay a school $500 to let you test, and then come back. He said, I believe in you so much that I will pose as a reference for you to come back to Prime. And that little pep talk from the examiner, number one, it really helped me. It calmed me down a lot, and it made me realize the examiners are not the enemy. They want you to pass. They want you to pass. They're not some mean, evil people that are just trying to find situations that you're gonna fail or they can jump on you about. And you know, so that very night, my trainer wound up taking me out, driving all around, and he gave me a couple more tips that he noticed that I wasn't going into a low enough gear when I was stopping at a traffic light. So what was happening was I was in too high of a gear for the speed that I was going. And as I would come up to the traffic light and then try to turn, I wasn't going fast enough for the gear I was in. So that's why I kept stalling. But until he actually put it to me that way and gave me tips on, okay, well, like actually stop, then downshift into like third, and then creep up to the light, that helped me. So instead of just trying to fly up to the light and getting really slow and then the light changed and I'm still in sixth and making the left turn, I actually would stop before the light, go down to third, then pull up, and if the light didn't turn or it did turn or whatever, then I could just wind up going through it when it was ready and I didn't have to worry about shifting and I wasn't going to stall. So basically, that's my story. It doesn't matter now that I failed the backing once and I failed the driving test twice. Nobody cares. No, you know, it's not on any record that I know of where some job's going to care. It's been 4 years. My fleet manager didn't know when I wound up going solo, which was like 5 months later. I tested out on mischief night is the day I passed. It was October 30th. So, you know, people just don't care later. It feels like the end of the... It feels like the whole world is coming to an end at the time, but it's only a temporary situation, which is much the way I feel about training also. It's temporary, so do what you gotta do to get through it, and then afterwards, it's just a blur. I mean, do I remember the frustration? Of course I do. And I was nervous and I wanted to cry. Well, I did cry. And I called up my brother and I called up my best friend and I was like, oh, I can't do this. And my brother, he's so funny. He said to me, look, we know enough stupid people who are out there driving. And at the post office, they're so bad and they bang up trailers so badly that even though we had like 100 docks, the drivers were only allowed to back up into every other door so that they had enough room where they wouldn't hit into the other trailers. So, you know, you could be driving for 20 years and still not always get the backing into the hole. Sometimes you're really tired and you just make stupid mistakes, and it's gonna happen. You're gonna keep learning and you're gonna keep making mistakes, but as time goes by, it's not gonna matter. And when you see people online that say, well, I was in CDL school and I was the top of my class and blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Nobody cares once you get your CDL. It doesn't matter if you were the top student. It doesn't matter how many you got right on that permit exam, because now is when the hard part really starts. And that's a scary thing to understand, but you know, because getting the license feels like such a challenge, but once you get the license is when you start learning how to really become a trucker. You're not a real trucker until you learn how to do the job completely, and that CDL exam is just like the starting point. Sorry, but I hope this helps you, and I hope this inspires you to realize that if you don't pass that exam tomorrow, it's not the end of the world. If you failed that exam yesterday, it's not the end of the world. Make a list of your mistakes, try to go over it in your head, ask the instructor, ask the examiners, ask them, well, what can I do, or what did I do that was wrong, or make sure you understand so you can correct it. Sometimes making mistakes, you know, actually helps you. And I can't speak for CDL schools because I didn't go to one. I went to Prime as a company sponsored program, but I can tell you that at my company, if you fail the exams, when you get to that do or die stage, they will keep practicing with you and practicing with you and practicing with you until they know you're ready. Like, they're not just gonna say, okay, you have to test tomorrow. If you tell them I'm not ready and I need extra help, they're gonna give you extra help. And this is a slight problem I have with CDL schools that you pay for, because that extra help might cost you an extra $500. If you have to test again, some of these schools are paying $500 to test. So you just paid $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 for the school. One guy on the trucking forum on truckingtruth.com just stated that he paid $9,000 for his CDL school. But what if he fails? Is that school going to charge him $500 to test and then $500 for more help? So now he could pay another $1,000 for extra help. And that's where I think, that's one of the reasons why I think that CDL sponsored programs are better for people. I'll make a video about that, comparing the two. I think that everybody needs to make their own choice. And a lot of people have this misconception about the sponsored program saying, well, I'm locked into a year. Well, I'll give you some reasons why you should stay a year at your first company anyway, whether you have your CDL when you go into them or whether you get it through their program. So upcoming videos are going to be exactly that. Some hygiene tips. I'm going to keep doing the rookie tips. I'm going to give you some passing the CDL exam tips. And if you like, comment, subscribe, share, that would be totally awesome. I appreciate it. We are almost to 100 subscribers. I think we're like at 92 right now. Woohoo! And we're gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep going forward. If you have anything you want me to discuss, you can email me, you can comment below, you can find me on Instagram. All my links are below, and I am gonna put that Apex Driving School pre-trip down below also. If you're looking for written exam practice, the CDL permit test, practice test, I have a link down below for truckingtruth.com where there is an amazing, amazing program that if you learn the actual information rather than just memorizing the questions, then you'll do really well. I promise. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you out here trucking along. Bye.